Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome back. If you're new to me, I'm Shu Allegra, the founder of Grace and Hope Consulting, where we empower people to achieve mental and emotional wellness, reach their full potential, and live fulfilling lives. So everything we do here evolves around resilience. And I'm inviting some new friends to the conversation this year to kind of talk about their resilience story. What does that look like for them? And what are some wisdom they learned along the way that they can pass on to all of us as we build our own resilience? So today I have Christopher King with me. Do you want to just introduce yourself, friend, and let us know who you are and what you do?
Like you said, thank you so much for that. I'm Christopher King II here, 27 years old, born in Dallas, Texas, hometown of Forney, Texas, college graduate generation. Um, and I write self-help books. And I also have a YouTube page where I basically just kind of use my self-help books and I just wanted to put a face to it. So I built a platform just to help folks and pretty much give back to, I guess, anybody that's out there that's going through certain different situations or trials in their lives, and basically how they can overcome them,
Awesome.
in any way, shape, or fashion.
Yeah. Oh, thank you for being here and thank you for what you do. It's
Thank
so
you.
needed. Someone who benefits from those resources myself, in that area and work and that stuff, doing the same, similar stuff. I know it's needed. And so I'm curious, how did you get into that? Like what led to you? You could have been doing anything and everything, right? Why that? What self-help books?
Well, I guess I have to date back to school.
Mhm.
I love writing. Reading is something I love doing as well. I can go back to when my mom used to take us to Barnes and Nobles as kids, and she
Mhm.
always stressed education. And
Mhm.
so reading was something we picked up on, and we always had we used to have book reports we had to do in the summertime. So she would make us read and stuff like that,
My
and
kind of
writing, and
mom, right?
you know, right. And those things stayed with me. So when I got through different situations in college and even high school, I was in British literature classes and things of that nature.
Mhm.
So writing has never been foreign to me, and so um, I use it as a way to propel myself to be the best I could be and get through certain situations when I was battling with depression and things of that nature.
Mhm. Mhm.
So that's where it
Yeah.
came from.
Awesome. No, writing is such a therapeutic tool. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, I so relate to that. I write, and I was telling your friend recently, it's when I'm overwhelmed, I write. When my emotions are not,
Hmm.
I write. When I'm happy, I write. And because it just
Hmm.
becomes such a way to process it. And I've seen the power of, journaling just in itself per se, and writing in general in my own life as I went through different trials, different challenges, and to the point where I actually start incorporating that with some of the other things that I do. Yes, as a counselor, I tell people, yeah, you have to journal, but now we even have like a whole program for people been through trauma to bounce back, from hurdles in their lives. That we actually have a whole journaling
Hmm.
program just for that, for them to use writing as a way to process, to purge, and repurpose, what they've been through.
I love that.
So I love that. I love that. And so you mentioned a little bit like going those from your own struggles, like you only share what you're comfortable, but I think again it kind of puts things into perspective because often people are like, I'm the only one going for this, right?
Mhm.
And honestly, I because I guess I work in the mental health field, but because I am a person myself who experienced mental health challenges, I'm passionate
Mhm.
about this, right? So, and I
Right.
know that Black community, Black and Brown communities, we don't talk enough about it.
We
For
don't.
Black men to say, "Oh, when I battle depression," people don't talk like that, right? And we need to get it out. We need to get, because the more we talk about it, the more we normalize the conversation, and the more people can feel comfortable seeking help. So, I mean,
Right.
I'm sure that's not the only thing you've been through, but I'm just like, I just wanted to kind of say how I appreciate you verbalizing it and putting that into context for other Black men out there. It's okay to talk
Thank you.
about it.
Thank you. I have to take it back to the foundation of what I have. A strong
Mm-hmm.
Black woman instilled that into me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, my mom is someone who told me at a young age, you have to deal with your stuff, like anything you're going through, communicate and talk. So she's my best friend still to this day. So like,
Mm-hmm.
she's somebody I would talk to, and we would talk to each other. And if something was going on, she would tell me to get it out. And
Mm-hmm.
somebody who dealt with anger, and depression and things of that nature, anxiety, something I
Yeah.
still deal with to this day. Talking and writing helped me through those things. So when I got to college, I had to do it on my own. So like there was phone calls. I actually went to Prairie View A&M University, and if you know how the time difference and travel
Oh,
from
yeah.
Dallas to or the Dallas area where I was in Forney, Texas to Houston is like about 3-4 hours. And so I didn't have my system there. And so when I went to college, I quickly fell into, my trials and tribulations there where I was depressed. I didn't know anybody pretty much there. I think I knew a couple of people. I went to school with them in middle school, and somehow we linked up in college. But I didn't really have like a solid foundation. So I fell hard.
The support system. Yeah, it's important.
Right. So I can only do stuff through the phone. And I was used to my mom being hands-on with me. So it was very hard at first. And so I learned then where I had to, talk more and kind of find my way. But I wasn't writing. I wasn't really putting a lot into focus, but I was doing stuff on the fly, and being 18, just being dropped off on campus and not being away from your family for that long period of time was really hard. So the first thing that I did was kind of like prayer and, trying to find God in my own way and things of that nature. And that's where my mom would talk to me, and she would call me, and because I started getting closed off because, you're becoming a man now. You want to kind of try to handle everything on your own. And she would call, I would fight her off, and she would steady pray for me. And, I would still go to parties, and I would, go to class late, and I wasn't really just
Your
doing what
own
I was
thing,
supposed to.
right?
Right. And it actually took my first semester, I skated by. So I was able to, I'm like, oh, first generation grad. I didn't, I met the standards to stay in the campus. So at that point, I'm thinking I got it.
I got it. I made the cut.
And that this is where the self-exploration stuff comes in, where I figure out like this is a learning process, and you just did enough, just grace. That was grace I had. God was like, let me know you can do this. Like you barely applied yourself and you can do this. So my second semester hit and I just fell off, and I'll just say a situation where I was kind of partying a lot, drinking, smoking, doing stuff with my friends and stuff like that, kind of falling off with my friend group that I was with at.
Go ahead, you can continue.
Okay, so the one particular situation I want to go into, because it was actually my second semester of college, and that's where everything kind of hit me. And the situation that really stopped my world is where I thought I was going to jail at one certain point because of some of the mistakes I was making, like going to class and hanging out with the wrong crowd, and not really just taking the opportunity that I had, just not taking advantage of it when I had the chance to, and capitalizing on what I did before. And the situation was like an act of God because it was a Black officer, and like I said, it was in a city where Sandra Bland had her situation, and it was a couple of years before. And dealing with police officers in the Waller County or Prairie View area, you're not really, it's not a good situation. Let's just say that.
No.
And so luckily it was a understanding cop, and he was a Black cop, and he was asking questions, and he wasn't really what you say. I don't think he was initially trying to book us or take us in that day, but he was checking us out. He seen we were good kids and we come from good backgrounds. The three of us, because it was more than us in the car, but it was three of us that he pulled out. And he put me in handcuffs. He said, "This is for my protection and yours." Of course, I understood it was a lot of us. And so I was just kind of sitting over the back of the car, and I was looking around, and I had a moment with God where it's like, did I change all the way how I was doing things? I just knew something had to stop. And he was trying to pull me. And so that was one of the situations. And I went on and I felt that the rest of that semester because I already had dug a hole. But that summer, I came home, I started working, and I lost my scholarship. I had like a scholarship going, and my mom found out about it, and she was a little upset. And, like, what happened? I was like, I told you I didn't do well. I didn't tell you how bad I did. but I didn't do well. And she was like, wow, like, what's going on? And I'm like, I'm still not letting her know about things, because I'm still trying to handle things on my own, but not understanding that I went out into a different environment and
Right.
I'm trying to
It's a
find the
huge
best way to
transition.
cope.
Exactly.
Right. Right. And so I initially go back and struggled again, but I'm working hard. I'm trying to balance. I'm still partying, I'm still getting myself together and still trying to find the right friend group, as well. There's distractions on campus. I'm at a campus where it's more women than it is. Well, it's more women than it is to the guys on campus. We're outnumbered. So it's a lot of distractions there as well. So
dynamics, yeah.
So, I'm trying to do the best I can, and I come back and all of a sudden it's Christmas break and they're telling me, hey, you're at jeopardy of not being in school. You've been put on suspension. We're going to hold your financial aid. You're not going to be able to, financially be able to come back. And the only way you can do this is you do an appeal. But when I got the appeal letter, it was like a week left of my Christmas break.
Wow.
So you can see how devastating that was.
Mm.
I get that letter. I talk to my mom, like, I'm once again, I don't, the semester before, the way they have it is I can't even register for classes. I got to see what my grades are looking like. So this is now I got this over the head. Now I see what my grades looking like. And it's like, okay, I didn't register for class. So I wrote a letter. They pretty much reinstate me. And then I don't know where I'm gonna live. I was trying to get stuff going and funds. I had like 2 weeks.
Wow.
And somehow I was able to talk to the dean. My mom, we talked to the people, but the process with that is I got to school like a week or two late. It was like, after syllabus week, you have your little time, you can get stuff going because people drop classes all the time. That's nothing new. And so I'm trying to work financial aid. I'm trying to figure out how I'm gonna pay for housing. We're doing all kind of stuff. My mom's working from the other side from where she's at, trying to talk to financial aid. I'm going to them. And the adversity that I got was they were telling me I had a person at financial aid kind of tell me if I were you, I would just pack it up and, try again next semester.
Wow. That is
I
not
ain't gonna lie, it gets a little overwhelming to me because it just talks about my journey. So anyway,
it's wow. Thanks for sharing that. I know it's not easy, but these are things people go through. Because we don't talk about it, people don't realize when they're not alone and they can push through. So please continue as you're comfortable.
Yeah. So okay. So this is crazy. So when he told me that, I was immediately devastated.
Yeah.
And so give me a moment. And I had also just met this young lady too, because she was I had just got comfortable with her. So I was on campus and I was trying to figure it out and tell my mom, I'm like, they're telling me to come back home. Like we just drove out here. I'm in my apartment. I don't know what to do. And she was like, let's give it another day. You can talk to financial aid. Somehow I was able to get some things going and money going. I talked to my dean and he was telling me about, I said, I'm telling him my situation. I'm reading, just let him know everything. And he was like, so how do I believe that? He said, I understand what you're saying, but like, how do I believe that? And I'm like, you just got to trust me. Like, I don't, I'm letting you know what the situation is. I want to go back to school. And so he override me to be able to get and register for classes. That semester was a make or break
favor.
Right. So that semester was a make or break semester for me because I had to make a certain GPA that I've never made before. Well, let's just say, I that's why I say it's an act of God, because a young lady that I ended up dating at the time, she was on the dean's list every semester. So I was just kind of watching her and how she did stuff. And I was learning how to be a student, and the right way, because I never knew how to study the right way and do stuff. I learned how to maneuver. And I went through so many different things in that semester where, I was failing class. I had like A's, like almost A's and B's in every class. And I had one class was economics class. And I literally failed like the little, I guess you would say the midterms. and everything. And I was like, I asked God, I was literally in my middle of my floor in my dorm. I was like, wow, like I'm trying so hard, God, like what more can I do? And I literally was on all fours and I was praying and I just felt something grab me. And I'm not gonna try to fabricate or anything. I just know that I felt something grab me. And that was the Holy Spirit to me. And that was enough for me to believe that I had support because I was in my wit's end.
I got you, right? Yeah.
And so after that happened, it's like the cycle kept going because I did great that semester, but I had another semester to go and it was like a hill to climb because I kept trying to, get out of there because, the mess I made my second semester and starting out, I didn't start out so great. And so that last semester, it was like I was continuing to dig myself out of a hole. So every semester I had to register late. So I would go to my dean and it was like almost humiliating. It was like, you're coming to register on what is it, like the second week of school or whatnot, or second. And it was like people would be inside of the advisement office and things of that nature. So, excuse me. And so that would be humiliating to me. It was because I was like, I work hard and it didn't represent who I was.
Right.
But I made a mistake. And so I had to keep reliving that mistake over and over and over and over again. But I kept pushing through.
Yeah.
So it got to a point where I was at a family outing and my mom was explaining because it was a like family friend. He was going to go to the same school I was going to. And my mom kind of like let him, oh, well, Chris is, he been messing up. You went down there and messed up and such and such. And she was basically trying to tell him like, hey, here's the route and here this could be. But I took it as a way like, oh, well, she's kind of put me down a little bit. And I got back to school and I remember I was talking to her on the phone and we had this conversation I'd never forget. And she said, Chris, if you don't share your story, how is God going to bless you? I was so ashamed of some of the things that I had went through in the past that I never, just kind of lived in my truth. I always was ashamed. So I walked around campus like that. I approached every day like that. Like, oh, I messed up. So I just, and in that moment, I stopped allowing what you would call the situation to be a hindrance to me, or I looked at it as a downfall. I actually looked at it as a strength because I continued to push through. And once I did that, that's when I became president of organizations. I got more involved in campus and I started telling my story. You get what I'm saying, to other folks and start being an inspiration to everyone around me. And I started understanding like, okay, there's people who are not going to talk. You could be a voice for people and they can understand you and you can, God can use you as a vessel. And so after I started doing that, my life changed. So like my friends circle changed, some relationships ended, but I have friends to this day that they knew my story and I always used to tell them. It's a bond of brothers. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna write that in the book. That's gonna go in the book. And so as I got ready to graduate, that's what I was doing. I was building up a book.
Wow.
And I would just say it, you can speak things into existence. So I was getting ready because I used to say this, I'm going to graduate. I can't wait till I graduate. And I start changing that to I'm going to graduate. And when I graduate, I'm going to do this. And it's like you just start walking into it. God just start opening doors. And I look around and I'm scared to go to the advisement office because I'm thinking that I'm in class and I'll let them know, hey, I'm coming to summer school. I'm going to both sessions. And they told me, he's like, well, if you do that, you're going to graduate in the fall. And I said, wait, I thought I was going to be back another year. I called my mom. I said, Mom, you ain't going to believe this. I said, Mom, I think I'm going to graduate in the fall. And she was like, really? Like, that's kind of, that's sooner than what we thought, because my whole thing was, I was embarrassed because I got to the campus in 2013. And, everybody has that, they say the fifth year, everybody gets the fifth year. But I was so close to actually graduating, in 2017, if it wasn't a few cuts and turns there. I could have got out, but to say that I graduated the year after and it'd be 2018 was just a blessing to me. It still was a blessing to me because all the things that I went through. And so the book came after that, but more things happened because I graduated and I didn't have a job. I gained weight. I was depressed, sitting in my parents' house and, being 24, a graduate. It was a lot that came in because I had built up a system and I was being so active. And so I had to deal with my depression in a closed off space.
Yeah, a whole different transition again, right? Yeah, do adjustment.
Right. So that was challenging. And I lost my granddad. And I think after that, it was a lot of stuff that went on. So after that, I said, you know what? I'm going to write a book. And so I wrote a book. I told my mom, I said, I'm gonna start it out. And I first started writing on my journal, and I was just going through chapters. And I'm like, I want to make a guide, a step-by-step guide. And that's when it came to the 24 ways to discover self-enlightenment. And it would just, and I don't want to put it far as in me saying like, I did this myself, but it was more about self-empowerment because at the end of the day, my journey came through me discovering myself, spending a lot of time with myself because I was scared to deal with Chris a lot. Just being young, because I'm an overthinker, and it's not, I thought it wasn't good for me to be around myself, but I learned how to deal with myself. So once I did that, I was able to push myself a little bit more and, get a little more out of life. And so the step-by-step guide and me putting the book together, it took months. And I gave myself, I said by my 25th birthday, I started in July, and by October of 2019, I was done with the book, October 21st.
Awesome.
So that's how that went.
Man, thank you so much for sharing. I know it's not easy, but you have no idea how your story just will touch so many people. Because a lot of young people, male, female, Black, white, Asian, Hispanic, we go through transition from home to college, and nobody talks about the adjustment, right? It impacts people's mental health more than we realize. And we can Google this stuff for people listening and watching. You can Google the stats there. A lot of young people, many will lose their faith in going to college. Many will lose, their identity. Many will lose their principles. Many will lose their mind. Like, let's be real, the mental health gets impacted because of just how huge a transition that is. And then there's still, there are more resources, but there's still not enough resources. People don't know about all the resources available, right? To help people navigate.
There you go. Exactly.
And so it's good to prepare, and for all of us, like, I said 2020, like, oh, now I know, like, before I go for transition, I need to prepare for it. And I think that as a society, we go through life, especially in our, American society here, it's like we go through life just doing things, I do as I go, not always planning for the things that, needs to be done, if that makes sense. So we plan for, we plan for an accident, right? That's why we have policies for car insurance, right? We plan for illnesses. Yes, we have medical insurance for that. But nobody plans for the toll, the mental, emotional, psychological toll of just living. Right. And so if you think about it that way, then if I know, like, I'm going to go for college, it's a huge transition, what would that look like? I don't even know, but I'll be away from my support system. I won't have my friends there. I need to remember who I am and what I stand for, so that when I go into that new environment, I can keep duplicating that, right? But it starts by, again, kind of, being more proactive for all of us, not just for college. I see these people moving from a state to another. We'll find the house, the job, but then we don't think about the mental, again, toll of moving to a different state, right? So it's, if we start approaching our mental health from that perspective, more as a prevention, just like we prevent everything else, right? If I know I'm going to drive from Dallas to Houston, I need to put enough gas in my car, because it's a 3-hour trip. Half a tank or even a quarter tank will not do it. Let's say that, right? So you do the same, we do that. So if we can apply the same principles to our mental health, it makes a huge difference. If I'm going to do, I know some things are going to happen that we cannot control. Like when we lose a loved one, most of the time it's out of our control. We can't always prepare for that. And even when we prepare, it's never like enough. But if I know something's going to happen, something is coming, then I need to kind of say, okay, how much tank do I have? How much gas do I have in my tank? right? To deal with this emotional stress that this will bring. And that makes a huge, huge difference. And so, I'm grateful for, people like you, Chris, coming, like, share your story, like, going to college, that big transition. But then also there's so many now, again, the stats speaks for itself. You can Google this stuff. How many people are leaving college, coming back home just because where the economy is, especially during COVID
Right.
also, right? It's like, a lot of people
Right.
going home when we all had different dreams for what 2020, 2021, and 2022 will look like. And here we are still in the middle of this pandemic, and all our lives have been shifted in a ways that literally make us feel powerless because it's out of our control. And that, again, that's the emotional
Exactly.
toll of it. How are we dealing with it? We need to make, allowance for it, per se. We need to prepare for it. We need to know, what do I need to fill my tank so I can make it through this hurdle, so I can make it through this day, so I can make it through this transition. And that's when, the things like the resources you create are so great. It's kind of having things like that, or self-help books, whether it's going to, therapy, counseling, talking to someone, building a support system and stay connecting with it. You even mentioned, like, staying active, like, oh, it might seem like little things, but they're all little things that
Exactly.
impacts your mental health in such a big way. And that makes it, makes a huge, huge difference. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing all that. I'm just so grateful that we got to connect and got to do this. And so,
I'm honored to be here. Thank you for
yeah,
that.
definitely. So before we go, I got two more questions here, I'll say. So my next question, my second to last, I'll say, will be, what advice will you give to other Black men out there right now in this world that we live in? Because the world we live in itself is stressful and impacts our mental health in so many ways. As a Black man
Um,
walking down the street can be just a whole anxiety attack coming, right? Just because of, again, the world
right.
we live in. So go ahead.
Yeah. My advice to Black men out there is it's okay to be vulnerable. And what I mean by that is that that's where the true strength lies. If you're
Mm-hmm.
able to release, that's better for you than to hold things in and allow things to kill you slowly. Um, that's just my take on that. Your
Yes,
true
that's.
strength is what you allow yourself to share, and
Mm-hmm.
you don't understand, closing your mouth in situations where you should have them open and let things out. You don't know what they can do, not for yourself, but other people as well. Because there's people that are, you could be a voice to other folks that are not um, able to speak, and you could give them the power to speak. And you let yourself be used as a vessel. It's okay to put yourself out there. And I think that's one thing I've learned, that's true strength to me.
That is
So
strength. Yes. Yes. No, that is well said. And
mhm,
honestly, it's scientifically and biblically proven, that yes,
most definitely.
we have to share this testimony. We have to share what we've been through so that we strengthen someone else.
Hmm.
Things we've been through is not just for us, it's to help someone else. But also, as we
Hmm.
share, there's deliverance that comes from that, right? We overcome by this, by the words of a testimony. And that's from a psychological standpoint. When you share, not only you're taking it, not only you allows you to process and and literally purge what's over that,
Hmm.
what's maybe holding you back or overwhelming, but as you
Hmm.
purge, you're taking your power back. You're literally
There you
saying,
go.
this situation that is, seems so huge right now, it's no, I'm going to choose to have
Hmm.
power over it by sharing it and releasing it. And so it liberates you as you release. So if it's with a counselor or from a friend,
Hmm.
then yes, there's a difference. Don't turn your friends into your counselor. That's that boundary is not needs to that boundary needs to be there. But also, as you share,
Hmm.
in safe places, it how it liberates you, but then it also empowers someone else to share as well. So the
There
thing
you
that, so you hold, like you said, it's just
most
exactly what you
definitely.
said. You holding on to something, holds you back, but then holds everybody else back as well. When I share, I feel better about it. I
Most
process it.
definitely.
I decide to move on. But then that my story becomes a path for someone else to also move
Hmm.
on. Yeah.
Hmm.
So definitely thank you for that great advice. Thank you. So my last one here, I hate to close this up, but all good, even good things have to come to an end. But I want you to share where people can get your books, where people can connect with you, the YouTube channel. That way, again, they can continue to follow you and learn from you and glean from your wisdom.
Okay. And my books are both. I have Post Grad Depression, and 24 Ways to Discover Self Enlightenment,
Mm-hmm.
Step by Step Guide. Both of those are on Amazon. You can type in the titles with my name, Christopher Anthony King II. Also, my YouTube channel is just Chris King II, CHRIS KING, and then 2 I's, capital I's for the Roman numeral.
Mhm.
So that's where you can find me on YouTube as well.
Awesome. Awesome. We'll make sure we'll include those links. For everyone watching and listening, thank you so much for being here. And just like Chris shared,
Pleasure.
yeah,
Thank you
like
for having me.
definitely, it's a blessing. And yeah, for all audience, just know that your story is not over yet. And sometimes those hurdles, that's how I call them, they come and they might delay the process. They might lead to certain detours. But as long as you stay focused, and not give up like Chris did, kind of holding or setting those goals and then start
Yes.
speaking things into existence, right? It's like, I know that I want to do this afterwards. And that those goals that you set becomes the driving force that pushes you to push through and bounce back from those hurdles.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, everyone, be blessed. So honor for to do this.
Thank you. Thank you for having me again.
Mhm.